Good morning everyone. We are tasked to report about the Module 2 Lesson 2 which is all about the sculpture.
Good morning to each and everyone. By the way, my name is Shinty Mabandos and this group is going to tackle about the elements type of sculpture. So first to discuss is the definition. So sculpture is a branch of visual arts that operate in three dimensions. So from the word visual art class, it is an art form such as painting, drawing, printmaking, sculpture, ceramic, photography, video, filmmaking, design, craft, and architecture. So sculpture is a three-dimensional artwork which is physically presented in the dimension of height, width, and depth, and also has a detail. So class, there are many types of material that may use in sculpture, such as plastic, clay, stone, metal, ceramic, and woods. So in earliest known work of sculpture date from around 32,000 BC, early man created a utilitarian object that were decorated with sculpture forms. So ancient people also created small animal and human figure carved in bone, ivory, or stone for possible spiritual or religious purposes. So in around 32,000 BC class, ang mga tao is nagsugod og carve og mga figures such as mga hayop o human figures na ilang ginasamba for spiritual and religious purposes. So that's all for sculpture definitions.
Now let's move on to the types of sculpture. We have 8 types of sculpture. These are Baroque sculpture, Neoclassicism, and kinetic art, Hellenistic, Manierism, Byzantine art, Gothic art, and wood carving. Furthermore, Baroque sculpture is meant to be viewed from all angles and displayed centrally rather against the wall. Neoclassicism also ranged from mythological figures to heroes. Moreover, kinetic sculptures can be used with any materials, but are often used metals and either use engines or batteries for the movement. In addition, Hellenistic sculptors skillfully incorporated 3 different characteristics. These are expressive movements, realistic anatomy, and ornate details. And also, Manners works frequently have graceful but fairly elongated limbs, small heads, and stylized facial features, while their poses seem difficult or contrived.
Continue our topics, now let's proceed to Byzantine sculpture. Byzantine sculpture is the most famous mosaic of Hagia Sophia in Constantinople. Byzantine sculpture originated and evolved from the Christianized Greek culture of the Eastern Roman Empire. The purpose of Byzantine is beautifying a building, instructing the illiterate on matters vital for the welfare of their soul, and encouraging the faithful that they were on the correct path of salvation. One of the examples of Byzantine sculpture is the painting inside of the church. Gothic art is a style of painting, architecture, and sculpture that began in Paris, the middle of the 12th century, and showed up throughout Europe all the way in 1500s. The architectural style defined feature is the pointed arc, while the definitive feature of Gothic painting and sculpture is naturalism. The next is wood carving. Wood carving is a form of woodworking by means of a cutting tool in one hand or chisel by 2 hands, or with 1 hand on a chisel and 1 hand on a mallet, resulting in a wooden figure or figurine, or in the sculpture ornamentation of wooden object. The oldest wood sculpture is Shiger idol, curved around around 11,000 years ago.
Elements of sculpture. So first is the color. So in works of arts, artists use color to depict and describe the subject. Artists, especially painters, utilize their knowledge of color to portray mood, light, depth, and point of view in a work of art. So yung artist ay gumagamit ng color upang ipahiwatig yung mga bagay na hindi kayang ipahiwatig ng salita. So, bawat kulay ay may iba-ibang kahulugan. So, for example, is yung kulay green. Ito ay nagpapahiwatig ng nature. Yung kulay red ay nagpapahiwatig ng love, passion, anger. So, magdidepende rin ito sa kung paano ito gamitin ng art. So, the second one is the space. So, an artist's use of space can also add depth and perspective, creating the illusion that some objects are bigger or closer than others. Without space, a composition can become too cluttered to effectively convey the intended meaning. So, yung mga artist ay gumagamit ng space para makagawa sila ng illusion na, for example, yung isang bagay is malapit, yung isang bagay is malaki kaysa sa iba. So, ito ay ginagamitan nila ng space para makagawa ng illusion. So, the third one is the line. So, line are used to create shape, pattern, texture, space, movement, and optical illusion. The use of lines allows artists to demonstrate delicate or force. Curves may take us slowly uphill or turn sharply, twisting our minds as they turn. A line can express various moods and feelings. So, sa pamamagitan ng line, nakakagawa yung artist ng iba pang element ng sculpture kagaya ng shapes, patterns, texture, space, at tsaka movement. So, nag-i-indicate din ito ng iba-ibang emosyon. So, the fourth one is the texture. So, a texture in art is how the surface of the artwork looks and feels to the physical touch. It helps the artist to create powerful art pieces with depth. So, furthermore, it is an element of art that impacts the feeling an artwork evokes in the viewer. So, ito ay para maging realistic at makatotohanan tingnan ng isang artwork sa paningin ng mga viewers. So, ito yung kung ano yung nafe-feel natin kapag hinahawakan natin yung isang sculpture. Kung ito ba ay magaspang, malambot, at marami pang iba. So, the fifth one is the form. So, as one of the elements of arts, along with the line, shape, texture, value, space, and color, form in art helps artists to produce an illusion of 3D and depth on a two-dimensional surface. So, kagaya ng mga struktura o gawa ng arkitektura. So, ito ay ang pag-aayos ng haba, lapad at lalim ng isang hugis. So, diba sa napapansin natin, merong mga art na flat lang siya, pero kapag tinitingnan natin siya, meron siyang illusion na para siyang nakatayo, para siyang gumagalaw, kasi yun dahil sa paggamit ng form. So, the sixth one is rhythm. It can be seen in patterns, in relationships between color and shapes, and in repetitions of lines and forms. So, ito ay nag-guide sa mata natin na kapag tinitingnan natin yung isang sculpture is nalilibot talaga ng mata natin yung sculpture. So, ito ay sa pamamagitan ng rhythm. The seventh one is the pattern. So, artists use patterns as decoration, as a technique of composition, or as an entire piece of artworks. Patterns are diverse and useful as a tool that grabs a viewer's attention, whether it be subtle or very apparent. So, ito ay ang mga repetition ng lines, shapes, at forms. So, for example, is yung line ng tree. Diba sa napapansin natin, yung line ng tree is pare-pareho lang lahat yung color nila. At saka, for example, is yung floral dress, design ng flower, back and forth sway of the ocean. So, yun yung mga example ng art na ginagamitan ng pattern. So, the last one is the volume. So, ito yung kung gaano kalaki ang isang sculpture. The quality of all roundness in sculpture, the extensions of a solid in all three dimensions. When holding and surrounding an object with our hands, we appreciate its volume. So, it is the size, bulk, and dimension of a particular subject.